This video covers test anxiety, how to identify it, overcome it, and prevent test anxiety. We want to address our objectives. First, we're going to cover the main goal. What is anxiety? What is test anxiety, the mental and the physical characteristics? Test anxiety while studying. Test anxiety self-assessment. What causes test anxiety? Tips for dealing with test anxiety. Activating the calming system. Tips from the pros. Preventing future test anxiety, and why we need to practice these test skills. And then any questions, thoughts, or discussions. So we want to address these areas of anxiety to have a thorough understanding of what anxiety is, how we can recognize it, and how we can prepare ourselves to overcome it and be successful. Our main goal is this, but before you can get to this, you must pass the test. So let's dive in to see how we can identify test anxiety, deal with anxiety, overcome it, and learn to prevent it. What is anxiety? Anxiety is a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease, typically about an imminent event or something with an uncertain outcome. Anxiety is the mind and body's reaction to stressful, dangerous, or unfamiliar situations. Worry, nervousness, or uncertainty. So, anxiety is a normal and often healthy emotion at times. However, when a person regularly feels disproportionate levels of anxiety, it might become difficult to control. When our bodies experience anxiety, we have a rush of adrenaline, and this is the hormone and the chemical messenger coming from our brain, which in turn triggers these anxious reactions in a process called the fight or flight response. Now, this response prepares us to physically confront or flee any potential threats to reach safety. It is important to note that everyone feels anxiety to some degree regularly throughout their life. Fear and anxiety are helpful emotions that can function to help us notice danger or threats that keep us safe and help us adapt to our environment. Anxiety is a problem when significant distress impairs your ability to function in any important facts of life. What is test anxiety? So many people experience stress or anxiety before a test. When this distress becomes excessive that it interferes with test performance, it is known as test anxiety. So it is a psychological condition where people experience extreme distress and anxiety in testing situations. While many people experience some degree of stress and anxiety before and during exams, test anxiety can actually impair learning and hurt our test performance. So even though you feel like you did all the things that you should have to prepare, you paid attention in class, you took detailed notes, you read the material, you even attended extra study sessions, maybe, you still experience things like blanking out when the test is presented and forgetting everything that you have prepared for. This is test anxiety. And the severity of it can vary considerably from one person to another. So, some people might simply have the feeling of butterflies in their stomach, and while others might find it difficult to concentrate on the test. So, let's go through some of the symptoms here. We have mental symptoms, such as difficulty concentrating. You're reading the test question, and it's just not making any sense to you. You just can't concentrate on it. You're going blank. You're reading the question, but nothing is coming to you. You're reading the words, but you're just going blank on the material. Difficulty with recall. You try to recall the facts that you've studied and that you've prepared, so hard to do, and you just can't recall any facts. Racing thoughts. You're trying to read the test question, but your mind is racing from one extreme to the other, and you just can't concentrate. You're already having negative thoughts. You're worrying. You're already worrying about failing. You're predicting negative outcomes. You're already telling yourself that you failed, and you're giving yourself harsh self-talk. You're already telling yourself, "I didn't prepare enough. I know I'm failing this test." Those type of things. So you're already talking to yourself in a negative way. Feelings of anger, fear, helplessness, and disappointment. You're already angry at yourself. You're already telling yourself you didn't prepare enough. You should have studied more. You're fearful. You're fearful of what's going to happen if you fail this test. I'm not going to get a job. I'm not, what is everybody going to think of me? You feel helpless. You just don't know how you could study anymore. You don't know how you can fit any more study time in with work and family and so forth, and you just feel helpless at this point, and you're disappointed in your performance. Knowing the answers after the test, but not during the test. So here you walk away, you do not, well, first of all, you read the question and you just go blank. But when you get out of the test, you're like, oh my goodness, I know that answer. The problem here is, if you recall correctly, me talking about the percentage of the brain capacity that we have full of anxiety. When we are under test anxiety, 90% of our brain is filled up and clouded with test anxiety, while only that small little 10% is the information that we've actually studied and that you've actually prepared for. But however, when you walk out of the test and you remove yourself from that stressful situation, your brain comes back to normal, and then the 90% is cleared up, and that's all the information, all the facts that you've studied and prepared for. And then that small 10% is the anxiety. That's a very typical sign of test anxiety. Some physical symptoms that someone might have would be tense muscles. You can just feel your arms, your back, tense up. You might experience a headache, a stomach ache, nausea and or diarrhea, sweating, increased heart and respiratory rate. You can feel your heart beating fast, and you can feel yourself breathing faster than normal. You can even experience tightness in the chest. And all of these things, again, are our adrenaline coming from the brain, and that's referred to as our fight or flight response. And it's how you handle this situation, and it's how we prepare ourselves to deal with this situation. So the adrenaline rush, can be a good thing. Again, it helps you prepare to deal effectively with stressful situations, ensuring that you're alert and ready. But sometimes the symptoms of test anxiety can become so excessive that it just makes it difficult or impossible to focus on the test. So, an exercise that you can do for yourself here: ask yourself, what is happening to me during test? Answer that question to yourself. What mental symptoms do I notice while I'm taking a test? What physical symptoms do I notice while I'm taking a test? And how do you think these symptoms will affect your ability to focus on a test? It's very important that you become aware of your test anxiety, and that you point out and identify the symptoms that you're having, so you can figure out how to cope and how to deal and how to prevent those experiences and those symptoms. Test anxiety while studying. So you know that you're experiencing test anxiety while studying if you experience these things. And this will give you a warning that it's occurring, so you can learn to tackle this and overcome it for success. Maybe you're rereading the same thing over and over. So again, you know you have this test anxiety. You're studying. You're not even taking the test, but you're already doing these things, not comprehending simple concepts. You can't focus on what you're reading, and you're very easily distracted. Those type of things give you a warning that you're dealing with test anxiety, and you're only studying. You haven't even gotten to the test yet. Test anxiety self-assessment. So let's read each of these items, and I want you to answer yes or no for each one of these to yourself. During the test, I worry about running out of time, seem to go blank and have trouble recalling even simple information. I feel rushed or pressured but can't identify why. I hear every sound in the room. I feel jittery or even keyed up, and that's, of course, your heart rate and your respiratory rates increasing. I notice my heart beating faster. Remember an answer to a question after I have moved on. Am very tempted to change my answers. Sometimes experience a headache. Read so fast that I skip the words. I struggle to focus on the test questions. And sometimes notice my hands are sweaty. And sometimes experience nausea and cramping. So if you answered yes to any of these questions, you have test anxiety. And the more yes answers that you have, the more pronounced your test anxiety issues may actually be. So I need you to understand here that anxiety fills up and takes up brain space. So under normal circumstances, your brain is filled with about 90% of what you have studied and prepared for, and only 10% is a small amount of anxiety. So in that situation, anxiety is normal and in small amounts, help you actually get that energy boost and alertness for that moment that you need. But when full anxiety kicks in, then the brain space is going to change to being 90% of the information that you retained to now being 90% anxiety, and only that small 10% of what you studied and prepared for. And this is when all the stuff that you know and studied is crammed into that little 10%, and the anxiety that's making up the 90% is actually blocking it. This is why you remember the answer after the test, but not during it, because after the test, your brain goes back to normal circumstances. Causes test anxiety. So there may be many factors contributing to test anxiety. Maybe past experiences with taking a test. Did you fail a test you had prepared for, maybe? Have you felt anxiety before taking a test before and you remember it? Feeling that your self worth is tied to your test results. What will everyone think of me if I fail? What will I do if I fail? You're already feeling that self worth. Poor preparation, maybe last minute cramming, poor time management, and poor study habits. Have you crammed in your studying late in the night into hours in the morning? Or maybe only studied a few times for many, many hours instead of spacing it out and studying a little bit over many days. That would be poor preparation. Pressure. You're already saying, if I don't pass this, what if? If I've come this far and I can't fail now? Maybe chaotic or stressed current life situations. So you're already giving yourself that pressure. So you're already saying, maybe you feel a lot of your pressure on yourself to pass this exam. If you don't pass it, then maybe you won't get a job and you can't pay the bills. You've come this far. If you don't pass, you've wasted all this time and all this money. Maybe you have a stressed life situation, such as you're a single parent, or maybe you're going through a divorce or some issues with your children or even your parents. And all of that is affecting your test anxiety. You already have fear or negative feelings. Maybe you've already set yourself up for fear because you have told yourself how hard this exam is based on what others have already said. Maybe you are doubting the fact that you haven't studied enough to have a chance to pass. Maybe you already have put the idea in your mind that you are doomed to fail already before that you've even finished the test. You may have self-doubt and have a hard time having confidence in yourself. Maybe you've experienced major recent stressors in life. Maybe you have had a stressful current job and you feel pressure from your job while also pressure to complete school and pass the test. Maybe you've had an illness or an injury with yourself or a family member that is causing you to have anxiety at this time. You could be going through a divorce or recently had a death in the family. All of these are realistic, justifiable reasons that you could be experiencing test anxiety. However, we want to recognize these, we want to face them and learn to cope with them and overcome them while preventing them in the future for our test day. Tips for dealing with test anxiety. Study better and prepare. So, smaller, more manageable chunks. Spread it out and don't cram in your study time. Study in small segments for about an hour and then take a 15-minute break. Do something physical on your breaks, maybe some yoga or some meditation or a bike ride or a short walk. And be finished early. Do not stay up late studying. So maybe your routine could be days off from work, maybe study 5 to 6 hours, go to bed early, get a good night's sleep. And days that you have to work, just know that you may only get 2 to 3 hours of studying in, but just make sure that you're going to bed on time early enough to get a good 8 hour sleep. And that you're setting aside a good schedule of studying and sticking to that. So put the time into your education that it deserves. Do the hard work up front and don't wait until right before the test to decide you're going to hit the books. You want to stay engaged with your studies. You want to space this out and learn things as we go. Manage your time better. You're going to want to eliminate distractions. Don't check Facebook, social media. Don't watch TV, video games. Please, try to maybe not have the kids there while you're studying if that's possible, or maybe you need to stay up a little bit later after they go to bed to study when it's quiet. But essentially, cut out all the non essential activities, such as maybe social outings, things that you could use for study time instead. So you need to make studying a priority and don't miss your scheduled study sessions that you prepare for yourself. Hold yourself accountable. You want to test yourself. So do as many practice questions as you can find. For every ball you hit on the golf course, you hit 100 on the range to practice. That's just an old golf saying. So practice makes perfect. Treat every practice test as the real thing. Put pressure on yourself with every practice question and practice test. You want to get accustomed to that amount of pressure that you're putting on yourself. So time yourself, and you will realize that maybe going through the questions too fast may be a problem for you, and you have room to slow down and read the questions more closely and actually think about them. Get a pre-test routine. So the day and the night before the test and the morning of the test, you want to relax. Do not stay up late studying. You want to stop by 8 o'clock at night and go to bed. Get a good night's sleep. You want to make sure to do your stretches, your arms, your neck, your back. You want to do your deep breathing exercises of 10 slow, deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. You want to do all those things in preparation. So get that pre-test routine down of relaxing. Positive thinking. You want to talk to yourself and tell yourself how much you have prepared for this test. Tell yourself you have studied and prepared for this test and you're going to do great. Tell yourself at least 3 things to help refocus and reduce your anxiety. Like, I can do this. I've got this. I studied and I'm ready for this. I'm going to pass this test. So be positive to yourself. You need it. You deserve it. You want to make sure that you're eating the day of the test. Make sure that it's not junk food. You want to make sure that you're eating healthy. Your brain can't work if it isn't adequately fueled. So eat a well-balanced breakfast the morning of the test. That's huge. Rest. Make sure that you're well rested the day of the test. Don't stay up all night cramming for the test. Get at least 8 hours of sleep the night before and just relax your body. You've put all this hard work into the test. Now it's time for it to pay off. You want to rest and relax. So relax just like you practiced. Keeping things in perspective is huge. This test, is a test, but keep it real. Keep check with your body. Make sure that if you feel your anxiety coming on, that you stop and you do not let yourself go to the next question. You want to take your eyes off the screen. You want to take a minute, take a deep breath in, release it out your mouth. You want to make sure that you're stretching and breathing, and you also want to make sure that you're giving that positive talk to yourself. Talk yourself through the anxiety. You know that it's not real. Tell yourself how much you've prepared and that you've got this. You want to make sure to stretch. You want to make sure that you're stretching and relaxing. So this is where all the practice tests come into play, that if you put pressure on yourself for each of those practice tests, that this won't feel any different. So slow and steady wins the race. You want to make sure that you're taking your time. You are reading each word of every question. You're looking for your clues and you're relaxing. And you want to take time to stretch during the exam. If you really need to, you need to stretch your neck, you need to stretch your back, you need to let your body just stretch and come back to focus. Focusing on the task at hand. So put everything else out of your mind and focus on the test. Read the questions carefully and use your critical thinking skills to answer them. So don't worry about the next question or how much longer that you have to finish. Focus on only the question that's right in front of you. Pay attention to just that question. And finally, once you've chosen your answer, you want to stand on it. Once you have answered a question, forget about it and move on to the next. Do not second guess yourself and do not change your answers. So, an exercise that you can do with yourself, you want to take your 10 slow, deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. You want to make sure to stretch and relax, and you want to ask yourself these questions. Describe to yourself how you feel after you're doing the deep breathing and stretching. Is it helping any? Does it help you relax? If it does, great. How do you think the deep breathing and stretching will help you during the test? Do you think that it might help you relieve some of the anxiety? I hope so. List 3 things that you can say to yourself to help refocus or reduce your anxiety during a test. Come up with 3 things that you can say positive to yourself. I can pass this. I've prepared for this. I've put in all the hard work. I can do this. I know I can. You want to read your 3 things and ask yourself, what effect can these have on my level of anxiety? You think it will bring your anxiety down? I think so if you'll practice talking to yourself positive. If you did the deep breathing activities, you've done the stretching, you've done your positive thinking, Do all of these things for a few minutes before your next test, and then see what effect you think it would have on your next test. Activating the calming system. By changing our breathing pattern, we indirectly change our physiology. When we breathe out or exhale, we activate our parasympathetic nervous system. A breathing technique that is very helpful in deactivating the stress response consists of breathing in through the nose to the count of 4 and breathing out through the mouth to the count of 8. When practicing breathing exercises, we want to take deep belly breaths instead of shallow chest breaths. A breathing technique that is very helpful in deactivating the stress response consists of this breathing in through the nose on the count of 4 and breathing out through the mouth to the count of 8. We are activating that parasympathetic nervous system twice as long as the sympathetic nervous system, with a net result of calming our physiology and our stress response. So try this simple technique often. Breathe in through the nose and breathe out of the mouth. So when you exhale, purse your lips and blow gently like you're blowing out of a candle or blowing a bubble. This will help you slow down the exhale. Don't worry if your nose is stuffy, just breathe in and out through your mouth if you must. So, when we are doing this and we are practicing this, it's going to effectively lower your stress response and improve your physical, your emotional, as well as your cognitive health. Tips from the pros. These are two short clips of two very well known athletes who speak on how they overcome anxiety in their highest moments, just like you are gearing up to take this huge test. It's kind of the same situation. So we can learn from these athletes and take away the fact that everyone, no matter how famous, how important, what they're may doing, are experiencing some type of anxiety at some point. But the thing is, it does not have to define you, or it does not have to cripple you in allowing our best self to come through. So let's watch these quick videos real quick.
I'm never scared to do things on the basketball court. Sure, I'm nervous because of the challenges, maybe the events that's happening around the game itself. But once I'm out there in the motion of playing, I have total confidence in my basketball skills, and that's going to get me to be comfortable once the game starts. But once the game started, I am not nervous. Before the game, I could be nervous. I'm pretty much nervous at every game. But once the ball goes up for the jump ball, I think all that nervousness just kind of goes away, and I revert back to things that I've practiced, things that seem to be very routine, and I'm very comfortable in that environment.
I think the key to focusing with 2 minutes to go is trusting your preparation, trusting all the work and the preparation that you've put in to that week or to that season. And the important thing is to treat every practice like a game, or every throw-in session with your receivers like a game. Pretend that every pass you're throwing to your receiver, whether it's your best friend, whoever it may be, out in the backyard, pretend it's 2 minutes to go and it's 3rd and 10, and we got to have this pass completed. So put that pressure on yourself in practice and in workout sessions, so when you get to the actual game, you don't feel uncomfortable. You feel like, hey, I'm ready for this situation. I've worked hard for it. Now I'm going to go out and do my job. And the guys that are able to live in the moment as opposed to being overwhelmed by them are the ones that trust their preparation, that have put that time in the off season, during the weeks of practice. Therefore, they can feel comfortable and go out and do their jobs with 2 minutes to go in the game.
Preventing future test anxiety. So, how can we prevent future test anxiety? Well, we can over prepare for every single test. Organize your schedule so you need at least 20 plus hours per week for school and studying. No cramming. Reduce distractions when studying, and we want to read with intent. You want to take care of yourself. Regular exercise releases endorphins and helps your brain work better. Healthy, balanced diet. No junk food. We want to eat healthy, balanced diet. Get enough sleep. I can't tell you how important this is. You want to get at least good 8 hours of quality sleep a night. Take a little time for yourself to relax and unwind. And you need a good support system. Call on friends, family to take care, maybe take some of the burden off of you, maybe keep the children, or do some of the chores around the house, anything that can help you and allow you more time to study or relax. And in the absence of a good support system, maybe you need to get creative. Maybe you could go to study at the library after work before you ever even come home to all the distractions, or go sit at Starbucks to relax. Maybe you get up earlier before the whole family gets up and study, or maybe you need to stay up a little bit later to study in the quieter times. As long as you're fitting in the sleep that you need and you're getting good quality study time that's not distractions. So all of these are very important in preparing to prevent any anxiety in the future and set yourself up for nothing but success. So you want to ask yourself, here's another exercise you can do with yourself. You want to ask yourself, do I study enough for my test? Am I confident in my knowledge during the test? Do I get regular exercise? Am I getting adequate sleep? Am I eating a healthy, balanced diet? Do I have a good support system? So all of those things are super, super important to ask yourself in order to prepare to prevent test anxiety. And you want to outline a plan to make at least 3 changes in these items and set yourself up for success. Nothing but success. And why do we practice these skills? Well, they build resiliency to stress and anxiety. They help us to be less reactive when we are faced with stress. They help develop the mind-body bridging, which promotes overall wellness. And they lead to improved thinking and emotional states. So it is very important to practice all of these skills that we've learned today. And remember, you can do this. You've put so much hard work into it. So just always remember, you can do this. You've prepared, you have studied, you are ready for this test. You can do it. Any questions, thoughts, or discussions? You can reach out for any questions. Please connect with any of us here at Nightingale. We are the NCLEX coaches. We have Tom Hazel, myself, Shauna Smith, and Jody Thompson. Thank you very much.